Hi, something a little bit different today. I'm here at our local radar control model flying field, and I just wanted to talk about the drone remote ID. So this is being brought into law in the USA at the moment in the next few months, and it's pretty certain that Australia is going to do the same sort of thing. So when we talk about drones, we normally think about these multi-rotors aeroplanes, but a drone by FAA, so that's the Federation Aviation Administration in America, and CASA, which is the Civil Aviation Safety Authority here in Australia, they define a drone as any radar controlled model basically. So we're going to need to fit these remote ID devices into our radar control models. There is an exemption to that, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. So we fly under these sets of rules here, and these are all sensible rules to provide a safe airspace for everybody. I don't think anyone could claim that these rules here are over the top or anything like that. So at the flying field today, I just grabbed a couple representations of some of the models that was out here. So what does the remote ID thing module do? Well, when you fit it in your drone, it's going to send the drone serial number and what it is. It's also going to have the longitude, latitude, and the velocity and altitude. So basically where the drone is in the air. And it's also going to have the operator position where the drone was launched from. So right now that's going to be transmitted by Bluetooth, but as technology goes along, they want to implement it so it'll be a network broadcast. So it'll be on the internet, so anyone can find out where that drone is and where the operator is. I can see why the aviation authorities want that to be, but I think they're overclassifying all radar control models. So just an example. So here we got some models. Some have cameras on them so that they can be flying FPV or first person view. Some also have GPSs so they can fly to waypoints, so in your goggles you can see where it is, the coordinates are. That's a useful thing to have because if you lose your model, you can hit the switch on the transmitter and it'll come back, it'll be returned to home and it'll come back to the flying field. Other models, like some of these fixed wing planes, your traditional planes, they don't have any of that in it. So you fly them by line of sight. So 200, 300, 400 metres away is the maximum you can fly. It sort of depends how good your eyesight is and how big the plane is, I guess. So the exemption to the rule for remote ID module is that if the drone airplane is less than 250 grams, you don't need to install it. So here we have a DJI Mini. So it weighs less than 250 grams. It has a camera for FPV and it's gimbaled, and it has a GPS so you can fly to waypoints and return to home. Now, I think it's fair to say that this drone, off the shelf, anyone can buy and fly it pretty much instantly that's had no experience with radar control models before. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything. There's just that's the way it is, sort of thing. So as a sort of example, I've just got some kitchen scales from home, and I'm just going to weigh a couple of the drones, airplanes that were out on the flying field today. So this is an Emax drone. It has a FPV camera, no GPS, weighs 46 grams, so that definitely doesn't need an RFID module, remote ID module. So then we got a bigger drone. This is a Flywheel Explorer. So it has a GPS and a camera, so you can fly FPV. That's 240 grams with the battery and everything, so that definitely doesn't need a remote ID module. So the next plane is made from foam. So it's a Corsair, about 1.2 metre wingspan. It doesn't have a camera, doesn't have GPS. So that's purely line of sight, this plane. It weighs 400 grams. So that will need a remote ID module. So next up we've got a balsawood plane. So it's a stick 1500, so that's 1.5 metre wingspan. It doesn't have camera, it doesn't have GPS, so it's a line of sight plane. But because it's more than 1 kilogram, it will need a remote ID module in it. So next up is an old faithful. So it's a Radiant. It's a foam plane. It's a glider. It has a 2 metre wingspan. It weighs 840 grams. It doesn't have a camera, doesn't have GPS, but that will need a remote ID module. Next up is an Atom RC Dolphin. So it's a foam plane. It has a camera, has GPS. It's designed for FPV flight. That's 920 grams, so that will require a remote ID module. Next up is a balsawood pit special with a fuel motor in it. That weighs 9 kilograms. This is line of sight plane because it doesn't have a camera or GPS in it. This will need a remote ID module. This helicopter, easily over 250 grams, no camera, no GPS, so this will need a remote ID module as well. So as I go through my final ramblings here, we'll have a look at some excellent video taken from the Dolphin FPV plane using its digital camera system. So aero modelers have been flying line of sight planes for well over 50 years. There is no safety, there is no extra risk involved now than it was 50 years ago, if anything less, because there's a whole heap less people flying line of sight planes now. So I'd like to see an exemption for line of sight planes from remote ID. There is no benefit to adding that. It's just a cost to the aero modeler. Okay, maybe there is a perceived need for remote ID. Maybe some of the camera drones that fly in around the public and may be unsafe or cause a nuisance. But those drones also have systems on board that prevent you from flying more than 120 metres high or taking off in a restricted zone like an airport and all that. So I don't know if that risk is real or perceived. So the aviation authorities aren't doing the hobby any justice by lumping everybody in the same bucket. It's just going to reduce the numbers of people flying radar control planes, which is a shame because it's you might not like radar control planes or whatever, but it's a hobby and hobbies are good for people. We all get out and talk about the same sort of things and socialise, so that's important for us humans. So thank you for watching. I want to mention also a big shout out to Bruce Simpson over at Xjet. He's doing a really good job at informing everybody about this remote ID stuff and trying to keep the authorities honest. So good on you, Bruce. Well done, mate. If you want to watch some videos of mostly old guys flying and enjoying their flying of radar control planes over there in New Zealand, you can't really go wrong but spend a couple of hours on Xjet's YouTube channel and having a chuckle what those blokes are doing. And you never know, you might even get a little bit of a liking to the radar control hobby. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time around.